the important thing is understanding that losing is part of the process and not having answers is part of the process. This is one of the most important things. Brian F., obviously does a lot of great content here on YouTube, and one of the things he started talking about was learning fighting games and the pitfalls that come with it and things that he finds that holds people back. I agree with a lot of what he says. I just want to add on to a few things here. And I've been saying this whole entire time that I think fighting games are harder to learn than a lot of other esports and stuff, and he kind of echoes that a little bit. Let's go ahead and watch this. It's just a 14-minute video here.
I wanted to talk a bit about the idea of setting negative expectations for yourself and the harm that I believe that causes. And I think there's an epidemic of people who don't understand that they have within them the innate ability to learn and to grow. And this is a self-defeating mind.
This is an interesting conversation here, because that line that he talks about there literally has nothing to do with fighting games, right? Like, that's just a general statement that you have the ability to learn and grow. And this is really important to me, which is why I've obviously said that I feel like anybody really can learn fighting games. Like, I really do feel like it. And there's a lot of people in my chat are going to be like, I'm still in gold forever. Like, I can't learn fighting games. They're too hard. And again, it's mindset. Brian will go into this a little bit more, but it's also, you have to understand, the actual importance of things in your life. A lot of people who have trouble achieving those higher levels in fighting games, they want the results of having it be important in your life, but it's not actually that important, because you will rather spend time doing other things. Other things are more important, so you don't dedicate as much resources to it. There are going to be people who will dedicate the resources and still have trouble, but again, let's move on so you can hear what Brian says here.
And that I see all over the place, especially in the realm of fighting games, because I think fighting games are really brutal and really confront you with your weaknesses up front and center. I don't know, I just wanted to talk about it a little bit, because it seems to be something that it always comes up whenever I talk about educational videos.
Good call. There is an echo. So let me do this. All right. Here we go.
LA and I worked really hard on this video, and I'm really proud of how it came out. And it's basically an introduction to Street Fighter 6, and I figured with the recent Capcom Cup 11, Sage M Slam, I figured this would be a good jumping off point now to do a really well produced and concise introduction video to Street Fighter 6. So in this video, I build on my experiences from coaching in Sage M Slam, and I present a sort of dichotomy between the approaches of someone like Doki Bird and someone like SK. And in the intro, I reference them here. Well, I was also a coach in the very first Sage Jam Slam for Street Fighter 6, where I was able to successfully coach players like Doki Bird to become the most feared player in her division, and also players like SK, who started the game from scratch and went on to become Master Rank.
Let's go!
And this brings us forward. Yeah, so I kind of dropped that to establish both my credibility as a player and a coach, and showed that I've had success in helping new players achieve success in this game. And and then I, throughout the video, I kind of reference approaching it from more modern controls, instant wins, mind games with Doki Bird, and more long-term foundational planning with SK. Kind of just serving as a juxtaposition as we go through the whole video. But a lot of the comments are rightfully so about how SK, SK, just keep in mind you might not have results as soon as SK. It's a long time. It can take a long time to learn and grow, and don't be disappointed if you don't have immediate success, which I think is all fine and good. But sometimes I feel like the tone and the source of these comments comes from a really messed up place where I almost think they do far more harm than good. I didn't go into it, but yeah, SK's case of how fast she got at the master, I believe was within 2 months. It is a rather exceptional case because, for one, SK is literally a professional content creator and streamer, so she's able to dedicate all of her time playing ungodly amount of hours to practice at the game. She grinds very hard. She's already been a high-level gamer in Overwatch, Deadlock, Marvel Rivals, right? She understands how to learn.
Yeah, this is, oh man, this is so important. In fact, someone in the chat typed it earlier, which is about learn how to learn. That was What's Up Sona typed that in there. And this is so important. And yeah, this is why you'll actually see a lot of players who are good at one genre of competitive gaming able to jump to other competitive games pretty quickly, right? I mean, you get a lot of these guys like Sajam, for example, and like Vicious and Ringe and all these guys. Like, they're not going to be like Marvel Rivals, like super experts, but they will get good at a game like Marvel Rivals a lot faster than a lot of other people would. And it's because they're good at gaming and especially at competitive gaming. They understand how to learn, like what to learn and how to learn. And this has nothing to do with knowing the game's mechanics or anything like that. It is just solely just like they understand, like they can play a game, a genre that's completely different, and when something goes wrong, they have that critical mind to just be like, so what did I do wrong here? Like, what was the mistake, And they can figure it out quickly because it's not about knowing the mechanics and et cetera. Like, maybe the answer is something they even don't know the mechanic for or whatever. Or like if you're playing, say, like League of Legends, you don't know what the build tree to go down, to get whatever things to make up for these things. But like, they'll still have an understanding. Like, okay, I understand that what I'm doing is not working and that there's probably a reason for it, and I should try to figure it out. And not only that, but the most important thing is that a lot of these people will probably also, so there's two very important things. The first one is they might realize that they don't know the answer, they can't figure out the answer, they don't have the answer, and that's okay. Keep going. Keep going. Work on the things that maybe you can find answers for. So again, the important thing is understanding that losing is part of the process and not having answers is part of the process. This is one of the most important things. Learning how to learn is really, really important. And also just understanding that, it's going to be hard. It's tough. It's going to take a while for you to get there. A lot of the times what happens with players, is that fighting games and any game is easy to find success with specific things. And it's particularly difficult because what happens is the thing that's been working forever stops working. And when that happens, it feels frustrating because the only thing that you've managed to find so far that's given you some success suddenly doesn't work anymore. And so now you just think about all the other times you've lost, and you're like, well, all that didn't work, and now this doesn't work. What am I supposed to do? Like, my character sucks? Is that what it is? My character sucks? Or what's going on? It's one of those things. But, like, the understanding that, everything you learn is going to keep changing and morphing, and like, you have to understand that you're fighting against other people as well who are trying to learn with you at the same time. I often talk about that. Oh, it's a two-player game because that's what you need to do. And so, that's something that's really important. And that is kind of what Brian F. is talking about here. SK is a streamer, streams all sorts of games. And so she understands that process. This is a process that we all have to learn and understand. Yeah, no, you're right, Forrest. The reason why I say that there aren't a lot of really good Honda and Blanca users out there, why people always think that they're bad until someone proves them otherwise, is because they use them, they're easy, they're trolly, and then when it stops working, they just stop playing them because, like, well, that stopped working, whatever, I'm done. And that's it, right? So it's very important to have that mindset, and Brian F. is going to talk a lot about this. Well, I'm going to bring it up. Mentality. It's always about mentality. Games get boring to me way too fast. I mean, that's absolutely a problem. Popularity is a factor too. Yes, because if you can't find opponents on ranked, the game is kind of miserable, right? But, fortunately, games like Tekken and Street Fighter, et cetera, it's easy to find players on ranked, so they're the ones that are the easiest to play online. So yes, having good netcode and having a good online player base is very, very important. There's a lot of outside factors, but regardless, like every game that exists that is competitive like this, there is enough information out there to get you to that point. The problem is that listening to that and absorbing things, and I say this all the time about tutorials or education videos and stuff, is that a lot of them are very much like, you have to do this, you have to do this, and it just goes in one ear out the other. Or you remember, I have to press buttons, or I have to not jump. And like, the problem is they're teaching you what to do. It's not, and so you're like, yeah, James, you're right. They have to teach you why to do those things. Yeah, sort of, but you can teach the why, but you want to teach the people to figure out the why themselves. You have to teach people to learn, to be able to teach themselves. That's kind of one of the most important things. So a lot of times when people are trying to teach fighting games, they're like, you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this. But I think that's a mistake. I really think one of the keys is that you have to teach people how to think. Like, you have to get philosophical, and you really have to let people know what they're in for, and that a lot of it is going to require looking into yourself, like actually looking deep within your soul, honestly, and that's what's going to get you far. And again, when people become good at one game, it's usually because they've developed that mindset, and again, that mindset will carry over. When you see someone like Sajam play fighting games, like he'll play a brand new fighting game, it's completely different mechanics, but he's like, oh, I get it, this is really good. Like, oh wait, maybe this is not as good as I thought, and like, but then like after like 2 hours, like Sajam is like already like super good at a lot of these fighting games, right? And it's because you have that gaming mentality, and again, that's what Brian F. is referring to here with SK. And so that gives you an advantage, but then you have to also realize that this is not an innate talent. Sajam and SK were not born with this mindset. They were not born with this talent. Being good at competitive games and having the right mindset has nothing to do with what you're born with, because there's nothing in nature that would want to teach, that would want you to know how to do this stuff, right? Like, it's something that you have to teach yourself, and it is learnable by everybody. So when you want to get good at fighting games, that's the first thing that you have to accept, that you have to understand, that you have to learn, right? Is you have to start understanding, how to teach yourself to play these games and how to have the right mindset. It's all mental, man. So much of this is mental. It's crazy.
She's learned how to learn and has applied that to many different game genres. That is the skill, I think, of any pro gamer. A lot of them have learned how to learn. Now, not every gamer that reaches like really big heights in whatever game that they compete in is able to transfer those skills that effectively. You see a pretty common trend of high-level competitive gamers being able to take their talents across different genres and mediums, because there's a common thread of learning how to learn, and someone like SK has mastered that. A lot of these comments I saw about like, oh, keep in mind it's exceptional, it is exceptional, that's a fact, but keep in mind it's exceptional, it is exceptional, that's a fact. But sometimes these comments go to the other extreme. Their comment was saying, keep in mind, you might not get to master rank. It might take you 1 year. It might take you 2 years if you're a brand new player. It might take you 3 years. You might never get there. And I'm thinking, brother, 3 years for master rank? The game has not even been out for 3 years. But it is true that some people never progress. But I don't think that's inherent to them. I don't think that's really a problem with the individual. And I don't think the goal of getting to master rank is something that is unattainable. I firmly believe that in most cases, the barrier to reaching a goal like master rank, based on how the Street Fighter 6 rank system functions in and of itself, is due to a lack of guidance, such as coaching, so that they can have focused practice to work explicitly on the issues they're facing to add to their skill set overall in order to continuously improve and progressively overload in their talents in the game. I think.
Yeah, this is one of the hardest things, and this is why, just to shift this to where I talk about everything, fighting games are a social genre. The reason why we could get... So my whole point is that let's just say no fighting game has ever existed and it comes out today, right? And let's not even try to stack against the fighting games too, right? Let's actually say Street Fighter 2 comes out and is actually a really good balanced game that has good speed, and let's just say picture the most perfect version of Street Fighter 2 that you can think of, and it's released today, it would not be able to get as popular. It just wouldn't. It would have no chance. It would have no chance right now because the way that it succeeded a long time ago was the social environment. It literally brought people back into the arcades. I don't know if you realize, arcades were already dying. Literally, Street Fighter 2 was the last, charge to keep arcades alive for just that much longer. And that social environment made a difference. And also when it came out in the SNES, everybody went to each other's houses and played, et cetera, et cetera. Having that social environment is so important. Even if your friend was beating you up all the time and laughing at you or whatever, you would be like, I need to get better to beat him. And you would start trying to figure out how to beat him. But, you're thinking about these kind of things. The hardest part is you just go on ranked and you play and you just lose. And it's just it's really, really hard to grow in fighting games. It really, really is, especially in today's climate. I think it's almost I feel like it's actually working against you more than it is. Obviously netcode's great. We can play anyone online, et cetera, et cetera. Games are super balanced now, and they're fun. But I still think it's actually significantly more difficult to learn fighting games. I mean, I see people in the chat right now already talking about they're falling out of love with fighting games. They just don't hit like they used to. If you're an OG player, I mean, that goes into a whole different conversation about how fighting games are just very different today than they were back in the day. Fighting games are very, very different. And it's tough, and it makes it hard because a lot of us who played a lot of the old fighting games, we have a lot of different skills that work for those games that don't work for modern games today. And people yell at me when I say that fighting games are completely different, and I wish they would stop, because a lot of people out there that are having trouble who loved fighting games before and don't love a lot of the fighting games now is because they don't understand how different the fighting games are. And again, this is not change, it's changed because players are better. No, literally, I can't even necessarily say that Street Fighter 5 and Street Fighter 6 are the same strategy, mentality at all compared to older games, right? But we have to acknowledge that, and people are not acknowledging that. I'm sorry, I'm going off on a completely another topic, because it does help a lot of the people understand why they are having trouble with it. So I've heard stories about, so old school player really wanting to come back and maybe trying to play fighting games. And I was like, please let them talk to me so I can explain how fighting games have changed in 30 years, so they are completely aware and don't try to play these games like the old ones. It's really, really different. Yeah. So the person who was, I hope you don't mind, me saying your name on the video here. Obviously, people can see the chat. But Fish Tacos here was just saying I can't even zone with Ryu anymore, not like I used to. And yeah, you can't. You just can't. Because that's just not how a lot of modern fighting games are played. Why? Because people hate chip damage, and people hate all these things, and so literally, what's the threat of a fireball if it can't chip damage you, right? How does that even work, right? It's really kind of annoying. But, that's the problem, is if you play a lot of old games and you jump in and try to do what you want to do. So for example, I took Guile online in Street Fighter 6, and I was like, holy crap, his crouching medium kick is so good. Oh my God, his Sobat reaches so far. These buttons are great. And so I took him online and I started trying to do guile things like low forward, sonic boom, low forward, Sobat, low forward, all this stuff. And, you know, that was just my old school guile habits. But the problem is all those moves are negative. So if I did low forward into Sobat, I just got punched in the face. If I did Sobat into low forward, I just got punched in the face, right? You want so hard to play the game the way that you used to be able to play it, and it's not possible anymore. You have to learn different stuff, and it's tough. And if we talk about this a little bit more, and again, you know, tying it into why I paused this video right here is because coaching is important. If somebody's not out there telling you this, then you just think there's something wrong with you. But it's not. So if Fish Tacos, if you are an old school fighting game player, that is why you are having trouble, because the game isn't the same anymore. But the problem is no one's telling you that. And a lot of people are like, oh, fighting games are easy. Oh, it's just the same. Oh, and then, so now you think you're doing something wrong. You know, now you think it's your fault. You know, there's a lot of times where I've been playing a game and I'm like, I'm not doing well. And then I found out I'm playing it wrong and I'm like, oh, thank God. Like, I don't get mad. Like, I'm like, oh, thank God. I thought it was just me. You know, like, I thought I was just bad, you know, kind of thing. It's helpful to have someone explain it like that. And I think that's just something that we don't talk about enough. And like I said, it's weird because people get mad at me when I say these things. They're like, whatever, James, you're just old. You can't play the new fighting games anymore. And like, no, no. I mean, I had one person argue with me, fighting game players today are just better. They're not, fighting games are not different. And I was like, fighting games are 100% different. And he was a Samurai Showdown fan. And he was like, they're not different. And I was like, Samurai Showdown, Evo top 8, all old school players. Where are all the new players who are so much better right now? You had Henry Sen and Alex Valle and like Justin Wong like making top 8 at the first Samurai Showdown at Evo. Like, where is all your super better players now? It's just that the Samurai Showdown was built for old school players because it played like an old school fighting game. And people are wondering what the difference is. It's the difference is between understanding that old school fighting games are just about, like, the way that I was describing it to my friends in chat recently, and pardon the French, but this is the best way to do it, is that in old fighting games, fuck it, DP is a legit strategy. Like, fuck it, I'm DPing right now. So I started calling it like the fuck it DP mentality. That worked in old fighting games. Like, you'll just be in the middle of whatever and you're like, fuck it, DP. And you do it and you had an invincible DP, and you know, if you missed it, you didn't lose half your life, get put into the corner, and now have to deal with a mix-up. You know, it's, you just did it, right? You just, and whatever. But in modern fighting games now, it's all about studying the situation. If Manon command grabs you and dashes forward, what's the situation? Do you know the frame data of that situation? If you can't answer that question in the chat right now, you should go find out and learn what the situation is. If I'm not mistaken, she's +1, right? And if she's +1, that means a throw will not beat your wake up 4-frame button. So if you ever see Manon dash after she, if she actually dashes after a command throw, I think she can beat you with her 4-frame, but she can't actually command grab you. So if you do get command looped, throw looped by her command grab, that's kind of a mistake, right? Is it -1 or is it +1? I thought it was +1. There was a situation where she gets a knockdown, and if she dashes, she's +1. Because I remember talking about this. Regardless, like, you have, so again, this is a gap in my knowledge here. I should know. I should absolutely know this. I just don't fight a lot of Manons online, so I just haven't bothered studying it that super hard. And you're like, James, you're a commentator. I also don't see a lot of Manons in tournaments, okay? I really don't. So, like, you prioritize where you can in these situations. But yeah, you have to know these situations. If you don't, you can't play correctly, because every situation in modern fighting games, in modern Street Fighter at least, the mix-up is a known quantity. If you block this and the opponent is now -1, you have a strike throw shimmy mix-up. You just do, right? Like, that's the known quantity. In this situation, you have a high, low, or throw, or button mix-up. Like, every situation is a known quantity. And so when you play Street Fighter V or play Street Fighter VI, a lot of it comes down to understanding those situations. Now, once it gets to the higher level, that starts to dissipate a little bit more because everybody has the knowledge, so the mind games come back, and we can finally play fighting games like us old school players want to play, but it's just a completely different learning curve path, right? Like, you're seriously going, you're taking a complete side path, you know what I mean, than what you used to do. In old games, it was just like, fuck it, DP, and I'm sad that those kind of things are gone. I still say that Dragon Punches, Invincible Dragon Punches, teach fighting games the best. Because if you get it blocked or you miss it, you don't ever think anything's cheap. You're like, he predicted it. And like, ta-da, right? Like, when you get knocked down in the corner these days, you're like, I tried to DP, it lost. I tried to throw, it lost. I pressed the button, it lost. I'm not gonna do anything. He threw me. What am I supposed to do? This is so cheap. I can't do anything, right? But in old games, it was like, fuck it, DP. And if it got blocked or it missed and the guy beat you, you're like, shit, he knew. And like, instantly you're learning fighting games. Like, you don't go, blocking is cheap, walking backwards, doing nothing is cheap. Like, it's oh my God, like, I hate losing invincible DPs in fighting games. It was just such a natural teacher by itself. But again, a lot of these fighting games, because they're so knowledge based, that, you need a lot of coaching now. You need a lot of people who help you, especially for a lot of the people who have old school mentality. They haven't been able to approach the new games the same way. Now, a lot of people who have that mindset of, like, some people out there can't do fuck it DP. Like, they just can't. They can't get in their brain, like, I just try this. So a game with that kind of frame data is wonderful for them. They can finally learn fighting games because every situation, the mix-up, what's supposed to happen, and you get the idea of stealing turns and all this stuff. So it actually makes it easier for those people to learn this game, and they've never been able to learn fighting games before because all the old school games were fucking DP games. And so now we've opened this audience to a whole brand new audience, which is awesome. Right? It's great. I love that. So again, neither version is wrong. I will obviously talk more passionately about fuck it DP because that's how I grew up. That's what I played and that's what I enjoyed. So a lot of the modern games are really harder for me. But the problem is when an old person like me who's still playing, says stuff like that, people are like, you're just old, James. You're making excuses for yourself. And it's like, stop, please. Even Daigo said that, right? Like, I remember when someone posted up the clip of Daigo saying that, everyone's like, Daigo's a genius. And I'm like, anyways, long enough rant there. Okay. But yeah, I mean, honestly, Fish Tacos, if you want to talk about it at some point in time, I will more than happily be able to talk to you and try to help you through it because it is different. It's a very different. Street Fighter is a very different genre right now. And again, it's not saying that every fighting game is like that, but a lot of fighting games have kind of moved into that. Like, shimmy exists like in so many fighting games now, right? So like City of the Wolves, shimmy is a thing. Like, you're gonna have to get used to the strike throw shimmy mix up in City of the Wolves as well. Even in Strive, it became a thing because they added whiff throws, right? In the original Mark of the Wolves and all Guilty Gears before Strive, there was no whiff throws, right? That's one of the reasons why they gave everybody a really laggy forward H, is because if you missed a throw, you would end up with a really laggy move, but that's why everybody would then learn to option select it with lighter buttons, so instead etc., all this stuff. But like, as soon as you started adding all this ability for people to make them whiff throws and be punishable, now a lot of games are very, very shimmy oriented. So, a lot of games have moved down to that path. But again, the point is that it's a different game, and it's one of those situations that if nobody tells you this, you're gonna beat yourself up because you're like, I used to be good at fighting games and now I suck. What's the deal? And when someone explains it to you, it definitely makes you feel a little better. So, yeah. So Shimmy is a bit different in City of the Wolves because of how the game works, for sure. Like it's all of it is going to be slightly different, right? All of it is going to be slightly different than each other, but it's still there. I know because I got shimmied a bunch of times and it was not fun. So why doesn't the game tell you this? Because this is all based off of historical content, right? What is the game supposed to tell you? Hi, new player to Street Fighter 6. You may not understand this, but Street Fighter 2 through 3 and 4 all play different than Street Fighter 5 and 6. Like, what is the point of the game telling you that? Like, it's tough, right? It's a tough thing to understand. So, like, there's really no good way for the game to teach you that. And not only that, but the game can't be like, hi, I'm Street Fighter 6. I'm a mind game. Study all the situations, because then everybody would turn the game off and walk away, right? Oh yeah, the second beta is coming out tomorrow. So yeah, again, like Brian has said, a lot of it requires a lot of coaching and stuff. So
maybe the resources haven't reached them that can help them guide them. If someone was able to work hands-on with them, directly with them, I firmly believe that nearly anyone on the planet can be coached to master rank. Obviously, there's exceptions. I do think your own predisposition in life will color all of your outcomes, of course. Your genetics, your ability to learn, your time especially. I think time is the number one component, and your motivation, right? Like, do you really want to put the work in to do it, right? But I think for the vast majority of people,
yeah, so again, that's a difference thing, because I remember talking to one person who's an artist, and they were just like, oh man, I can't get good at these fighting games. I can't get good at these fighting games. But every time I saw them post new artwork, their artwork got better and better and better and better and better. And I was like, dude, bro, like, it's just because fighting games aren't as important to you. Something else is more important. And that's okay. That is okay. You have to understand that you're going to get out of it what you put into it. And that's true for everything, not just fighting games. That's just the world, right? So if something is more important to you, like, you just have to kind of understand that your growth in these genres will be limited, right? And the thing is, a lot of you guys who are watching this stream are watching because obviously you like fighting games. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here, because who the fuck am I, right? Like, but so a lot of you guys definitely want to get into it, but you also have to understand that if you're not putting a lot of time into it, you're not going to grow as fast as you'd want to, right? And especially because there's no AI art to cheat your way through anything right now. You're just going to get how much you put into it. It's just really what it comes down to, honestly. So
I think the default assumption we can assume is that you can do it. You can do it. And I do believe there are major exceptions, of course. Like, for example, there are players who have been playing Street Fighter for 30 years, and they are stuck in Platinum rank. They are stuck, and I think they're going to...
So an interesting conversation that I've had with many people is, do you think anybody can be a top player in fighting games, or do you think some people are just innately have that ability to just play fighting games? Is it a talent? Is there a talent component that will prevent those without the fighting game talent to achieve that highest levels? And I personally think no. I think anybody can achieve that level, because a lot of the people who are at that level didn't have the talent before, right? And I just truly believe that. I really truly believe that. And like Brian has said, it's learning to learn. There's a lot of different things in there that would apply to a lot of things that will make you better to get good at everything. But like, dude, I've seen people who fold pizza boxes faster than other people. There's cup stacking. Like, for some reason, like people have gotten ridiculously good at sign spinning because they're there every day and they're spinning the sign. Like, are you gonna tell me that these guys have a natural talent for sign spinning? Or is it because they're standing there for 6 hours a day and they're bored, and so they just start spinning the sign and doing stuff to keep themselves interested, and then they end up getting really good at it? Like, the one example that I always give is I had hard contact lenses a long time ago. Getting the hard contact lens out of my contacts case, I was the master of turning them from cupped on my finger to upside down on my finger, like facing up with the gap, like in half a second. Like, my brother got contacts at one point in time, and he had never seen me do this, and then he was just standing next to me, and I put my finger in, I pulled it out, and I just went, whoop, and it was facing the other way. And he was like, what the hell? How did you do that? And I was like, do what? And I had been doing it for so many years, I didn't realize how good I got at doing that. Again, repetition, time, and, that's what gets you good at things. You can get good at whatever you do a million times, right? And that's really just what it comes down to. For example, I wanted to learn tennis. Every time I played tennis, I sucked. Well, guess what? That's because I played tennis like once or twice a year. How am I going to get better at tennis that way, right? So again, if fighting games is not your thing, understand that. But yes, everybody can be really, really good at fighting games. Honestly.
You're going to have a much harder time potentially than a new player. I think people who have ingrained in them these patterns in Street Fighter 2, they never quite learned the game on a deeper level. They played more casually at the arcade back in the Street Fighter 2 days, or mashing on, Super Nintendo with their siblings and friends. And they were satisfied with that. And as the years went on, and as the different iterations of Street Fighter came out, they never really moved beyond that. And as the competitive scene grew and grew, and now the advent of the internet and people sharing technology and understanding these game engines on a much deeper level, and as communication kept progressing, people were learning faster and faster. They often tended to not grow with the times. For a player like that, I think they're going to have a much harder time improving.
Yeah, I mean, kind of with what he said too, is that a lot of the players who have played for 30 years, and again, see, Brian didn't even address this. And again, I think that this is one of the things super missing from the discourse about fighting games, is that Street Fighter V and Street Fighter VI are just different games. That's why we see so many people from those old days having so much trouble learning these fighting games. They're not washed up. They're not bad players. In fact, if Tomo was trying to learn, for example, Tomo Ohira, of course, the first god of Street Fighter in the North America so long ago, the first god at Street Fighter 2, wanted to learn Street Fighter 5 or 6 today, he'd probably struggle because of how different it is. But if it wasn't different, if it was still more of a heart game than a mind game with the the mind, heart, and body triangle, like if it was still like old Street Fighter, like Tomo would still be able to beat. Like, he would still be one of the top players right now. Honestly, it has nothing to do. Like, this is not like, oh, we now have better hockey sticks and we have better, tennis rackets, and now we have better exercise training regimens and we understand, physical science a lot better. Like, dude, we're just mashing on buttons and joysticks here, right? And yeah, sure, for sure, the controllers have gotten better, but maybe not even better, because some people actually can't use hitboxes and whatever like that. It's such a different thing. Like, it's not even comparable. Like, the players who were good at those games a long time ago would still be good today. And so, but a lot of the players can't play the modern games because it's just a completely different game. It is a different game now. Street Fighter V and Street Fighter VI don't play anything like Street Fighter 2 or even Street Fighter 3. Street Fighter 3 is closer because it has similar footsies, but Street Fighter 3 doesn't really have the fuck it DP factor, but it has the fuck it parry factor, right? Like, anytime you lose to something, you're like, I parried that, right? Like, you always had something, and so you could always defy whatever's happening in the game. It doesn't matter if I'm -1 or -5 or +3. I can parry every single time, so you're just like, fuck it, parry. It's just very, very different. It's very different. So, but one of the things, the reason why old players being bad at modern fighting games is kind of a trope now, and people don't acknowledge this. This is because the fighting games are different now. They're just different. And we have to acknowledge that. Because like I said, Samurai Showdown, EVO, was all the old school players who got top 8 at EVO. And it had the same crazy people out there who are super sciencey guys. But that game didn't work that way, right? That game didn't reward, like, this is plus, this is this decision, I need to work better on my RPS or my rock, papers. No, it was just, you know what? I feel like hitting H right now. I just feel like doing the AB swing. And the other guy just happened to let go of the button, they just get hit, right? It's the fucking DP is high in that game. And so when you have the right games, the players will still prosper in those games. And that's the truth of it. It's just the absolute truth. And, saying Nuki is washed in the chat by Nyanzaboru is so important, because that's exactly why Daigo brought up that conversation, because he's like, so Nuki's not very good at 5, right? Like, he's not very good at 5. Is he a bad fighting game player? He's like, no, it's just that this game is different. You have to study, and Nuki's lazy and doesn't want to study. So he's not going to get good at this game. Whereas a lot of the other games, you don't have to study. It was just, you know what? This feels right to do right now, right here. And so Nuki would destroy everybody in those games because he was so good at the speed of decisions and just the, you know what? I feel like this guy's just going to not block here. And you hit him. It's just, they're very different fighting games. And, the way it's described, both of them can sound bad and both of them can sound good. Again, neither's right or wrong. It's just they're different games, and we just have to understand that.
Because not only do you have to learn new skills, you have to unlearn your intuitive ways of understanding the game.
Yeah, so okay, so he does address it a little bit, just not to the extent that I address it. So it's not even just unlearning, it's literally changing the way you see the game completely, because it does. When I played Street Fighter V, I couldn't learn it because I was trying to use Cammy like old school style, and it was only when I switched to Lucia that I was able to understand it, because I didn't have that classic. I didn't have my thoughts about what Cammy is supposed to do, so I can't use her right. And Lucia forced me to learn Street Fighter V and really get me to learn how the whole turns thing works and all this stuff, and understanding that I have to study this situation and that situation, and it helped a lot. So if you are a player, so like when Fish Taco said, like, I can't zone with Ryu anymore, one of the best advices is just play somebody that you've never played before. Play one of the new characters that hasn't been in a Street Fighter before, because that could help you get over a lot of the old stuff and get you to understand the new stuff. If you try to play, like when Street Fighter V Sagat came out, I just tried to Tiger shot with him all day because his Tiger had fast recovery, and I was like, sick, I can play like Sagat again. Then I fought a G, and when I threw fireballs, he just absorbed it with his V-skill all day, and I was just giving him power, and then I didn't know what to do anymore. Because I was just trying to play like old school. It's tough, but learning how to play. Yeah, you love Ryu. I love Cammy. I love Cammy as well. Well, to be fair, I thought Street Fighter V Cammy was boring as hell, and I really wanted to learn like a lot of modern Zangief, not modern control Zangief, but I like when I tried to learn Zangief in 5 and 6, it's been very difficult to play him because it's so different than what I want to do with Zangief, and it is tough. Sometimes you have to bite that bullet and really go with something else, which is kind of one of the reasons why I did go with Kimberly, because she was more like Lucia, and Lucia was from Street Fighter V, and the games play a lot more similarly in that situation. So this reminds me of how many old school Ryu players could not max him out, but Blas was able to do so because he had no preconceived notions about how to fight as Ryu in Street Fighter VI due to being very young. I talk about this all the time on commentary. I'm like, he doesn't have any hang-ups with the old games. He's not coming into this going, boy, I really wish this game could, he's coming in there and he's like, this works. It works great. You know, when somebody actually put up a clip on Twitter was like, these guys are insane, and he posted a clip of a jury player who did drive rush, you know, and he's like, dude, bro, like, why are you a spaz? Learn to play the game. Why is he a spaz? It works. It's the right strategy, and it's powerful. Is he really learning wrong, or is he playing wrong, or do you have a misconceived perception of what you want Street Fighter to be played like? Right? If Street Fighter 2, the very first game, had drive rush and we drive rushed all the time, and we got into future games that didn't have drive rush, we'd be like, this is stupid. Like, drive rush is the true essence of Street Fighter. Like, dude, it's a different game and different strategies work. And a lot of people have these hangups, and it's really hard for them to get good because they have these hangups. Yeah, Ryu is much stronger with Hashogeki. And you can see that. You saw that with Blaz. His Hashogeki game was insane.
It's double the work, maybe even more. I don't know exactly how to quantify it, but you're gonna have to unlearn a lot of things to make room for new ways of approaching and new pathways in your brain. And as you get older, that just becomes more difficult, right? So I actually think the older player has a much harder time in terms of growing. And
Hashogeki, palm strike, boom. You know, the little palm thing that he does basically is the best way to describe it. The true essence of Street Fighter is getting 50-50 as soon as Vega hits you. Yeah, exactly, right? When people say Super Turbo is the epitome of true footsies and neutral, I'm like, bro, did you play Super Turbo?
Getting over these plateaus. For newer players, though, you can do it. You really can. I think it's so... I understand that these kind of comments are coming from like the position of don't set really high expectations or unrealistic expectations for people.
One of my favorite things when James Goddard, I told the story that hyper fighting, you can actually check this out on Core Gaming's, one of his most recent videos that he put out. He's interviewing me about hyper fighting, and I talk about how Capcom USA made hyper fighting, and James Goddard was in charge of that. And one of the stories that I was told is they had considered a fake fireball, and James Goddard said, no, like, Ryu fights honorably. He would never do a fake fireball. And I really liked that mentality. I kind of liked that idea. So I don't want Ryu to have a fake fireball.
So that their ego doesn't get hurt and they get demoralized and quit. Yeah, that's true. But at the same time, don't make it seem like it's impossible. Brother, you can do it. It drives me nuts when people act like they can't learn and improve things.
It's funny because I agree with Brian F. so much, and yet I have the same mentality that he's criticizing. I get so down on myself about all this stuff. I was like, I'm the worst. I can't do anything. It's tough, man. So like, as much as I know it, I still do it too. So again, it's not that I know it's not easy to have the right mentality, but it is something that you have to keep in mind. And oftentimes when people give me advice and I start doing the stupid thing, well, they could just do that. That doesn't work because I tried that and it didn't work. Like, I need to be mad at that moment, but like everything they suggest, I go and try. Like, but I'll be loud about it, but I'll go and try because they're right, but I just need to be mad in that moment. And that is also something important to recognize that, you know, on the teacher side and on your side is that sometimes you just need to be mad and it's cool, but understand that, you know, don't let that hold you back, like what Brian F. is saying.
I see this all over the place in terms of people approaching fighting games. You can do it. You can learn skills. It's not an impossible task. This genre is not particularly impossible to learn, to be competent in. It is not. I think it's just a little bit more psychologically difficult because of the 1v1 aspect.
And this is where I agree with him. This is why I think fighting games are harder to learn than a lot of other competitive games, because it's the 1v1. I also still have that weird thing where I say the other problem is that fighting games do not reward any natural tendency at all whatsoever. So that's another problem. But essentially, yes, it's going to be harder because 1v1 is easier to beat yourself up on, and like I said, fighting games should be a social genre.
And how immediate the feedback and the negative feedback is, I think it's a little more difficult psychologically. But it is, I'm telling you, it drives me nuts when I see this defeatist mentality.
I love how passionate he's getting about this too. I really do, because he's talking like a person who's gone through it, right? Like obviously right now we're like, Brian F is so good, but I mean, he's gone through it too. He had to try to get good as well. And so he's speaking from his heart here. He's speaking from a place that he's been. He understands how difficult it is. And I like the passion that he has about this.
And people try to spread it like it's a positive thing for protecting incoming players. There's a balance for sure. It drives me nuts when I see this defeatist mentality, and people try to spread it like it's a positive thing for protecting incoming players. There's a balance for sure, but man.
I'm not sure what he's referring to. I mean, it might be like for me that I try to tell people that fighting games are hard to get into and I don't want to sugarcoat it. And that might be what he's referring to here, that, you know, a lot of people try to like, oh yeah, we have to let them know that they're in for a world of hurt and stuff like that. I mean, that might be what we're referring to, and might be one of the areas that I do disagree with him. Because I do think it's better to let people know that it's hard from the get-go. But again, the worst part about it is one thing does not apply to everybody. You guys have seen it here on twitch.tv/jchenzo, where I'm streaming It Was Tuesday now. Whenever new people come into my chat and they're like, I'm trying to learn fighting games, the first thing I ask you is, what are your favorite games? Because everybody learns differently and everybody enjoys different things. So I want to know what your favorite video games are so I can teach you from that perspective, because everybody has a different way to learn and different things that they find fun. And if you apply only one way strategy for everybody to learn, it's bad. So what Brian's saying here, like if this is the topic that he's talking about, that he feels like people shouldn't present it that way, you know, the correct answer really is just start teaching them without telling them that it's easy or hard. And if they start having fun, you'd be like, see, this is totally learnable. If they're having a really tough time, just be like, this shit's hard, man. Like a lot of people have gone through what you're going through right now. You have to teach based on the different people. And again, it's one of the tough things, you know, like someone asked in the chat, why can't a fighting game teach you this? It's because there's no one right way to teach anybody. And why, like he said, like Brian said, we need coaching, et cetera, et cetera. And why I keep saying it's a social genre, because like different people are going to resonate with you in very, very different ways. And that's one of the skills of the Sage Am Slam. We could ask Brian, like, did he teach his team all the same way? Or did he did he even subconsciously treat people differently? I had a manager one time that every time I did something and did it well, he'd be like, that's really nice job, but you should have implemented this or you could have added more. And I was like, stop. If you want to manage me, I know this is a tactic to like make people do better. And I was like, that doesn't work on me. I was like, just compliment me and leave it, and I will automatically try to do better, because that's how my brain always works. But if you were like, you could have did this, I get depressed because I'm like, shit, like he didn't like what I did. I was like, don't do that. And he was like, okay, you got it. And from that point on, he was like, great job, James. Well done. Blah, blah. And I knew he was just, you know, complimenting me because I told him to kind of manage me that way, but I did great work for him. So, so it worked that way, honestly. So
I don't think it's helpful to say to somebody it's going to take you 3 years to get the mastering, because it's just not true.
It's really not. Now, some of you will take that way, but like I said, it's because you didn't have the right coaching and you didn't dedicate enough time to it, because it just wasn't that important in your life. And that's okay. That's absolutely okay.
So many players from Sage Am Slam, beyond just SK, have gotten to master rank as brand new fighting game players in a couple of months. I've seen so many brand new fighting game players improve really fast. And that's because, for one, they're probably maybe DGen gamers and have a lot more free time and responsibility, so that will scale the rate of your achievement for sure. But beyond that, they learn how to learn. They've been embedded in competitive gaming for such a long time that they understand like the process of internalizing, breaking down problems into smaller and smaller ones that are digestible, finding individual solutions and then piecing it together to build up their overall skill set. They understand.
And yeah, Zarlam in the chat says, I have a hard time taking criticism, but I've been working on that. Again, that's going to be a job of your teacher. That's the best teacher, because they will understand that criticism doesn't work. And so what happens is, there's the joke about the compliment sandwich, right? Like you put the criticism between two compliments, but that's not even like you can actually be like, oh, okay, see what you did right there? That was really good, because if you did something different, this person could have taken advantage of that and beat you up. And you can literally say what they're doing, but it's not a critique, because you complimented them the one time they didn't do that. And you can still get your point across about, critiquing them without making it a critique at all. There are lots of ways to do this. And that's the mark of a good teacher. That's why, even though I'm not a top player, I'm really fucking good at teaching people how to get from beginner to like a higher level, because I will understand how to teach people. When I was teaching Faye how to play Aki in Street Fighter 6, I told her early on, even before the stream, I was like, if I do anything that you don't like or whatever, blah, blah, just let me know. And there's a couple times where I was trying to teach her and she was like, okay, I don't like this stuff, blah, 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 when people do stuff like this. I was like, fair. And I just stopped doing it. You try different things and you adjust. Not being able to criticize someone doesn't mean there's no way to teach them. That's just the trick about it. And people are like, oh, people are soft. You need to coddle, whatever. No. Everybody just thinks differently and they learn differently. Sorry, we can't all be cold and emotionless like you, like I can turn it around on you, right? Like, oh, I'm soft, you're just cold and emotionless, man. Don't you have a heart? My God, it goes in every direction, right? You have to understand that everybody's different. And that's what's going to make the world turn, okay? That's going to make society a lot better.
Understand that. And that's a unique, or rather the opposite, that's a generic process, right? And I think a really good video that helped communicate this very succinctly, well, actually the opposite, it's a very long video. But it really encapsulates
but dude, this is just a great example of why Brian F is so watchable and so fun to listen to, and why people attach to him, because it's just such an adorable moment here.
This very succinctly, well, actually the opposite, it's a very long video.
It's just adorable. And again, like I said, I have trouble not thinking this way because of the empath nature of my brain. So
it really encapsulated this phenomena really well. It's by Sane Retry. It's this video, The Skill Issue, or How I Learned I Could Learn, So Can You. Also, Capitalism is a Disease. Hour and a half video essay, but listen to this opening segment here.
When I was a kid, one of the absolute worst things my family taught me was this false statement. You cannot learn to be good at things.
It is a false statement. I think so many people have been taught this. This opening monologue he goes on describes how his grandmother, while she was mostly a positive figure in his life.
That's interesting. So, Innie B, you actually watched that whole thing. That's actually cool. I haven't sat down to watch it. Again, my ADHD won't let me sit down and watch an hour and a half video like that, but maybe one of these days I'll get to it. But you said it's a wild ride. Interesting. Okay.
Would always instantly squash any effort he made in terms of producing art, in terms of developing a talent in some ways, because if he didn't show instant progress at it, instant results, instant skill, instant potential, it was squandered and met with negativity, saying this is bad.
So what he said before that,
this opening monologue,
I kind of skipped this,
describes how his grandmother, while she was mostly a positive figure in his life, would always instantly squash any effort he made in terms of producing art, in terms of developing a
I think he explains it a little bit later.
Being able to put food, in terms of making money.
Yeah,
and
so
any time spent focusing on skills that didn't receive immediate return on investment in terms of making money was detrimental literally to her survival in terms of being able to put food on the plate and be able to survive. Really great video. I think anyone should really watch this, especially the first like 20 minutes or so.
well, NEB, he just said it, yeah. So NEB in the chat says the first 30 minutes is definitely relevant to learning how to learn. And Brian F is just like, yeah, the first 20 minutes.
That tale, it's heartbreaking in ways, but I think
there's a reason why there are so many musicians in the FGC. Forrest, I agree with you 100%. So, whoa, watching that video made me thankful my family were all musicians and taught us piano. I didn't even learn, but I knew that was a thing, learning a skill. Video blew my mind. Those people, so Forrest continues with, those people know they can become good at something by trying and learning. Not only that, but they get very good at understanding rote practicing, just like repetition, like doing it over and over and over and over and over again. And a lot of people are like, that sucks. Like I can't do that. Like I get bored. But like musicians, they understand where that skill comes from and they know how to take advantage of it and muscle memory to be able to do that. So again, when I played the piano, I couldn't read sheet music very fast. So I had to memorize everything. So I memorized everything and that's how I could play it. But like I learned piano through muscle memory. It's again, everything I do is emotion based. Like I cannot explain to anybody. The way that I learn anything is based off of feel. So when I learned a piano song, it wasn't about knowing where the notes go. It's what felt right to my hands to move to the next part of the song. Like it wasn't any, like if you told me to write down the notes of a song that I can play through memory, I can't, because I don't know what notes I'm hitting. I literally have no idea what notes I'm hitting the majority of the time, because to me, it's just muscle memory, which is why I can play songs I've never played in like 10 years, sometimes just by walking up to the piano and just, this is what I remember and I can play it, because it's just, that's how I learn things, is everything I learn is based on how I feel. And trust me, when anybody activates a DI, I don't feel anything. This is why I can't react to them, because the startup is so subtle that it doesn't make me feel anything. It doesn't make me feel anything. And so I can't react to it, because I will always react to it significantly later. But yeah, anyways,
it describes.
Yeah, music just makes you learn how to practice and do stuff. And so I was able to take that music and apply it to combos and execution, and why I say I'm a volume player, because even mix-ups, I cannot implement a mix-up into a game until I practice it a lot or do it a lot in fighting games or have it work. Like when it works, it like generates a feeling in my brain that makes me remember to try this mix-up. It's weird. Like I have to actively make myself remember these things, because otherwise I'll forget. Like I was fighting against somebody and I did cross-up throw, and I just did that all the time, and he teched it every time because he knew I did cross-up in the throw, and I knew I needed a shimmy, but I couldn't get my hands to do it. I could, like, every time I threw, I'd be like, fuck. Like, even though, like, before I even, like, the throw animation come out, I'd be like, fuck. Because I just couldn't get my muscle memory to do something different, which was really irritating. And so, like, I have to learn through volume. It's really, really weird. I mean, honestly, if someone smacked me in the head every time I didn't counter a drive impact, maybe. But the problem is, like, they'd have to, like, we would have to wire up a game. I'll talk to Krakatoa about it. Like, dude, you know what? I might have to talk to him, because he's done that work for the Guilty Gear. If there's some way that I could just play an alarm and make my room start flashing red lights, like the first frame that someone does a drive impact, maybe it would make me actually do something.
A lot of people who I think unfortunately have had a similar upbringing, where they weren't nurtured in this way, where they realize that you can be bad at things, start bad, and continue to progress and get good. You do not need talent. You do not need to be good at something. You are bad when you first start. Everybody starts out bad. Like, I think that's also missed from a lot of people. It's also missed from a lot of people, this mentality that you have to have instant results. You are going to get beat, and that's part of the process. In fact, that's your feedback mechanism. You keep losing, and that helps you get feedback on things you got to improve on. And how do you filter that and break down that complex, abstract problem? You lose. It's a very abstract thing. There's many things that contributed to that loss. How can you start picking away at that to break that down to digestible pieces and solve those problems one by one to, you know, complete the whole and eventually make progress and improve the skill?
No, the guy did not remind me of Sajam or Giuna or any of those. Come on. Enough with that.
Great video. Highly recommend it, because I think the root of a lot of people's issues with fighting games, it's all up here. It's all in your mind.
Editor Q, kick, punch, it's all in the mind. If you want to test me, I'm sure you'll find that the things I'll teach you are sure to beat you. Nevertheless, you'll get a lesson from teacher now, kick.
I firmly believe that. There are limits to everything we can do in our life, of course. I'm not saying you can become a rocket scientist overnight. I do think we have our limits, but I gotta say, I think for example, Master Rank, I know I always get flack for this, I don't think Master Rank is a super unattainable goal. This is from September 2024. I don't know if there's any more updated visuals.
This is definitely from Aliette Faye, by the way. Oh, yeah, I can even see the AYE at the top corner. Shout outs to Aliette Faye. Awesome content on Twitter, doing a lot of this kind of data for Street Fighter 6 and for Tekken.
Statistics from this, you can see here, 11.89% of the ranked population is...
Chris G has a good take on fighting games. Just don't respect anyone and think they all suck. That is actually a really good way for, again, certain people to learn, for sure. But I mean, if you're that kind of mentality where it's easy for you to, so again, APOC, old school fighting game player, long time ago, one of the best players in the early days. I think it was, so there was B3, at B4 and B5, I beat him once in Alpha 2, and then I think in Alpha 3, I beat him. And he actually said to me one time, a few years later, he was like, you know why I can't beat you, James? And I was like, why? He's like, because I respect you too much. He was like, I don't hate you enough. He's like, I don't hate you enough. And I totally get that. But like, I mean, that hurt him fighting against me. And so, like, yeah, like some people like Chris G, the way that he's going to learn to beat people is by making himself hate people.
It's in Master Rank already. And generally what happens is people reach the next tier and they stop playing because, like, oh, their ego is satiated. Oh, I got to whatever X, Y, or Z rank. I'm happy. So often they kind of fall off at that point. But you can see...
Also, you can't drop below that at a lot of ranks. That helps. See, Diamond, I think, is one of the first times you can drop back into Platinum, and that's why you see Diamond at level 1 at 1 star is not as high as a lot of the other guys. A lot of the other ones, when you get to the new level, suddenly everyone's stronger, and if you lose, you don't fall to the previous tier. So that's why you do see, statistically, the first tier always has the most players. Diamond is a little bit more like a kind of a straight line, because you can actually be ejected back into Platinum, and so that's another major factor of why everybody is in that first tier.
Yeah, as you get
the biggest drop you can make is Diamond 5 through Gold 1. Wait, you can't go from Diamond 5 to Gold 1, if I'm not mistaken. I thought you couldn't go from Platinum down to Gold. Maybe you can. Maybe I don't know, because I'm so good. It's never happened to me. No, I'm just kidding.
Closer to the next tier, you push through to make it into the end. You can see as an individual rank.
Okay, so you can get all the way down to Gold 1. Okay, then my mistake on that one. I really thought you couldn't.
Master is actually the highest. If you exclude the sums of the individual sub tiers, Platinum 1 through 5, for example, most players per individual rank are in Master Rank. The rank system in Street Fighter 6 incentivizes this continuous growth that has inflation built into the point system. You gain more points than you lose until you hit Master Rank. And then people have issues. There's a whole other can of worms that I eventually do want to get into about getting into master rank, because you start out at 1500 to keep the average of points always evenly distributed. But really, you're gonna fall. Like if you barely get into master rank.
What are you talking about, Keikukaze? It's crazy how someone could be that bad to go from diamond 5 all the way to gold 1. I mean, don't say that, dude. Like it happens sometimes, man. It just happens. People get into slumps and then they get into their own head and then that shit just goes down. I will always use Nick Anderson, the Orlando Magic player who missed 4 free throws, who could have sealed the game and won them the championship, and he failed 4 free throws in a row, and then he went from a 70-some% free throw shooter to a 40% free throw shooter. He just got into his head, and that was the end of it. It happens, man. It just happens.
Frank, you're probably around a 1200 MR player, so people have a really brutal reality check.
What do you mean by what is 900 MMR, the guy? What do you mean? No, 900 MMR is just in master. When you get to master, you're just in MMR at that point. Before you get into master, there's no such thing as MMR, really.
When they get into master rank, because they go on a losing streak to stabilize where they actually belong in terms of relative skill level. And that's pretty harsh. That's harsh for players to get over. Not sure if there's a better system for that, considering it's like an ELO system. Maybe just
oh, okay, you were being snarky. All right, fair.
And there's, like,
sorry.
Expectations going into it could help.
Put the Kappa faces in, man. Put the Kappa.
Different topic. Anyways, I think you guys can do it. I think it's not healthy to assume like these goals are so unobtainable. Getting master rank is not winning Evo, for example. Of course, you might not make it to master rank, considering you might not put in the time, the effort, and there might not be enough resources. I think the number one problem is an education problem, a resource problem. Filtering down the process of learning what you need to learn as you progress through the ranks. It's an education problem. It's not a you problem, and you can do it. Believe in yourself, please. I just, it pains me to see this idea passed around. It is difficult. It is challenging. It's not going to be overnight. That's fine. But if you keep working at it and you have the right help along the way, I believe you can achieve your goals. I truly do. That's all I have. I'm ranting. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, no, again, I agree with this wholeheartedly. And like I said, I really believe that anybody could become really good at fighting games, could become a top player. It's just that you have to be willing to dedicate yourself to that, and you have to make sacrifices to that. And that is a key point right there, is that if you want to get really good at fighting games, you need to make the proper sacrifices. You have to understand that you're not going to be able to spend as much time with your kids, or you're not going to be able to dedicate as much time to painting or your music. You can't take overtime, hours to try to earn more money and stuff like that. And Jasmine is fascinated by this fan. Holy crap. You just have to realize that is a situation. She stopped. Anyways, it's all gonna take 4 easy payments of $19.95. Yeah, and that applies to getting good at anything in life. Exactly. Like, this is just how it works. This is how it works. So again, one of the toughest things, like I beat myself up because I suck at fighting games right now, but I also don't play fighting games as often as I used to, as I should. If I played a lot again, I'd be fine. Like, I did it with Lucia, right? Like, everyone's like, oh my God, James is so bad at Street Fighter V. I took Lucia, I got really high ranked with her, and I was beating people that were in higher ranks than me, and I fought someone one time, and they were like, holy crap, I didn't know you were actually this good. Like, I thought you were like just commentary, and I was like, dude, I'm good at fighting games, but that was the period of time that I put in the most work to playing Street Fighter V, and I just haven't, when Street Fighter 6 first came out, I put in a ton of time into Kimberly, but then just, life and just my brain and depression and all that kind of stuff has just been really messing me up and stuff, but I don't want to get into all of that. So I've fallen considerably behind, and so I'm really bad, and I beat myself up about that. But I also have to be realistic to myself, is I just don't play enough. I just don't play often. If I played often, I could probably get pretty far, but it will take a lot of work and a lot of grinding and a lot of losses for me to get back to that point again where I feel like I'm at the level that I know that I can achieve, that I have achieved in the past. In fact, I mean, someone just recently, I think it was in the Chenzor Dynasty, wasn't it? Someone posted up pictures of, you know, the results from a UCLA Alpha 3 tournament where I had first place. Second place was Jason Cole. Third place was Ed Ma. And like, I was just like, see, I used to be good. Like, I can fight people. So yeah, like, oh no, Wake Up Sona, I have every intention to. Once I get all of this brand stuff working, you know, merging all the channels and stuff, I definitely want to get back into it, 100%. But again, you have to be realistic about, oh, I'm looking at the wrong camera now. You have to be realistic about what you can achieve, right? And this is where I've often said one of the biggest problems that video games in general trick you into thinking you're good at video games, when in fact, most people are very bad at video games. But the thing is, you get stronger, you get more abilities, you get cooler weapons, you get more armor, whatever, and you run into the old enemies that used to give you trouble, and now you just murder them. And a lot of video games, like I've said, I've always described the God of War thing where every time you reloaded from a save file, you got another pixel of health. So if you saved your game with like almost no health and then you run into a boss and you can't beat him, you might not notice, but like your health actually grows by a pixel like every time you reload. So eventually, hopefully you'll have enough life to be able to win. Video games are good at teaching you that you're good at video games when you're not, right? And so this is one reason why people love Dark Souls games so much, because you can't get good at those games unless you actually get good at those games, right? And fighting games are like the epitome of this, right? You're not going to get good at fighting games by quantity, right? You have to learn, you have to understand, you have to teach yourself things. And again, why I say that learning how to learn is super important for fighting games. And so this is a key factor, and this is something that you have to do. But the problem is, because everyone thinks they're good at video games, they think that they should be doing better with less effort than they actually are, because it's a video game. But it's not just a video game. It's the same as anything else. Everything requires a ridiculous amount of talent. You can think that you're really good at Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, and then you hear about the guy who just beat Mike Tyson in under 20 minutes blindfolded, which requires like 17 like frame perfect, like 1 out of 60 seconds, like timing and stuff like that. And he did it. Super Mario Brothers, finally somebody actually achieved the same time as the best Taz out there, the best tool-assisted run out there, tool-assisted speed run. It's not the same amount of frames, and that might be almost impossible for humans, but he actually achieved the literal same amount of time. And so like you can think you're good at everything, but there's always somebody out there who is just going to be that much better than you. And they put in the, I mean, like that guy who did the Mike Tyson's Punch-Out thing, if I recall, it was that one where he was just like, I don't even know how to react. I've been doing this for 4 years. I've been playing this game for 4 years, trying this run for 4 years. Dude, he's been doing it for 4 years. Right? And like, that's the thing. Like, he wasn't just naturally gifted. He did it for 4 years, man. Like, dude, like, it takes work for everybody. So that's just really important to understand. And just being realistic on what you can achieve in a fighting game is very important. So it's very easy to beat yourself up about it, especially when no one's there to tell you what you're doing right or what you might be actually doing wrong, or even just having somebody cheer for you, man. Like, it's so important to have somebody cheering for you or for rooting for you. And again, that's why a lot of people who stream, like, can actually achieve a lot of these things, because their fans are like, let's go, and they get all really, this is the run, you know, kind of thing. It's really important. So again, fighting games are a social genre, man. Like you can play God of War, you can play all these games by yourself and enjoy it, And it's why a lot of these games have to lean so hard into story, because they have to give you this feeling of reward in a different way. And it's by advancing plot. It's by getting you engrossed in the characters, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what you end up with, right? So that's why a lot of these one-player games have to focus on story so much nowadays. And so, if you're playing fighting games, you can't expect the same kind of feedback loop. You just can't. You're not going to get better unless you really take into account what you're doing wrong. And that's one of the most important. You have to accept that you're doing something wrong. And I finally just remembered, wait. You have to accept that you're doing something wrong. You have to accept that you're doing something so the thing is, the reason why you have to put the blame on yourself is because somebody else can do it with your same character, and they don't have extra armor, they don't have more power-ups, nothing. It's the exact same character that you're using. And so a very important mindset is that someone else can make it work with your character. So you have to understand that the lack of success is your fault. You have to be able to understand that you have to improve to be better about something, that it is going to take use. Why I tell everybody that if you run into a situation in a fighting game and you feel like there's no answer and this thing is impossible to beat, if you were right, everybody would be using it in the tournaments and everybody would abuse it and it would have to be nerfed. We've seen it. Leroy in Tekken 7 when he first came out. 7 out of the top 8 at Evo Japan was Leroy, right? So yes, it can happen. But if something is beating you up and you don't know how to fight it, but it's not dominating the tournament scene, you have to understand that there is a solution. You have to tell yourself that there is something you can do to beat this. And that is one of the most important things, because that will get you looking for a solution, right? Because if you don't understand that, that is where what Brian F. is talking about, the doom and gloom, comes from. I can't do it. It's impossible. But you see, not everybody else is getting killed. But if you're losing to something and then you go watch a tournament and everybody else is losing to it, then you can just be like, yeah, see? And great. Then again, you're not going to feel like you suck because clearly something is broken. But if everybody else is not losing to this thing, clearly there is a solution to it. And that just takes research. And this is where the tough part comes in, is because if you don't have a teacher, you have to find the solution yourself. A lot of people don't like training. A lot of people don't like taking that time. And understand completely. And it's not how you want to play the game. It's not how you learn. It's not how you enjoy video games. You want to just come home from work and smash some buttons and have a good time, etc., etc. But if you really are invested in getting stronger and getting better, then yes, absolutely, you are going to have to be able to research that or find somebody else. Come into my stream and be like, James, I can't stop this my OD fan. And I'll be like, yeah, nobody can. Or like, I can't stop this, and I'll lab it out with you. I'll lab it out for you, man. I'll show you piece by piece how I figure out a solution for it, And that's the thing is, whenever something is beating you in a game, in a fighting game, when someone's beating you with something and it's not killing everybody, understanding that there is a solution, there has to be a solution for it. Otherwise, it would be dominating everything. That's all anybody would. I mean, there's a lot of people out there who really care about their ranked points. And if that strategy was that good and dominated everything and was actually impossible to beat, you would see everybody using it and spamming it and just trying to farm points. Because for some reason, ranked points mean a lot to people. Right? Like they will do they actually download cheats and install cheats just so they can get a high MR and be like, look at my MR. So if something was that broken, that's literally all you would see half the time online. But if it's not, and if you see someone who beat you with that and they're at the same rank you're at, they're in the same points that you're at, clearly there's something about it that doesn't work. as much as you think it is. And so to have that mentality, and again, I'm not saying like, you know, you're bad or no, it's just the important thing is have the mentality to know there is a solution. And if you keep that mentality, that keeps you interested, that keeps you motivated. And so when you lose to something, you'll be like, I need to figure out how to stop this. Again, I always point to Snake Eyes. He'll play online. Yeah, he's like, it's Snake Eyes, he's amazing. Yeah, he still gets hit by a lot of stuff. And on his stream, he's like, this character can do that? What? I've never seen that before. That's crazy. And then immediately he'll not accept the next match and he goes into training mode and he figures it out. He's like, how can I beat this? And then he figures out a solution. He's like, okay. And then he runs into that guy online again and it destroys him. But again, the key is that he knows there's a solution, so he'll go look for it. And there's a lot of fun in that. There's a lot of joy in that. If you lab out a solution and the first time you use it online and actually it works, you're just like, dude, I practiced that. I love that. I'm the god. You know, like it's a great feeling, man. It's a great feeling. And yeah, now you have replay takeover in so many of these games that makes it so much easier. So yeah, that was the point. I'm glad I finally remembered it. Always know that there is a solution to this thing that's plaguing you. And if you keep that in mind, that makes that impels you to be more researching, more discovery, and to not get quite as salty about it. Because now what you do is when you lose to something, you're not like, this is impossible, this is dumb, I can't win. This is like, holy crap, here's a gap in my knowledge. If you understand that when you get blown up by something, you have no idea how to get out of it, that is a gap in your knowledge, because in fighting games, there's always a solution. Always a solution. So if you don't know how to escape it, that's a gap in your knowledge. Go fill that gap. Right? And then you don't blame yourself as much. You don't blame yourself. You're like, okay, well, okay, there are situations where it might just be a bad matchup, right? It could just be one of those 7-3 matchups. And again, if you find that out, go talk to an expert online like, hi, El Chicote, I'm a Lily player. I can't beat this character. Am I doing something wrong? And he's like, dude, that fight sucks. And then you're like, whew, it's not just me. But again, like, the whole point is that no matter which path you go down, you find out like it's you know, you beating yourself up is not the right answer. It's just not the right answer. So, all right, so that's that topic right there. Probably went on way longer than I expected to here. But one of the cool things now is that I can do Tuesday shows any day of the week now on the Jay Chenzo channel. Although it would be weird because it is called It Was Tuesday. But in any case, I just like I said, this video was sent to me and I found it really fascinating and I really wanted to expand on it because I really do like teaching people fighting games and helping them learn. Brian F. is a wonderful teacher and he pointed out a lot of great things here. He's clearly a really good teacher, and he's very passionate about it. He cares, and he really wants to see everybody succeed. And I think that's really cool, and I just wanted to add on to that. I just wanted to expand on a lot of these concepts here, too, because, again, I think I approach it from a way that a lot of other people don't, you know? It's hard because, like, you have to take responsibility for your losses, but you also have to understand how the reason why you lost is not because you suck. There's always going to be a reason why you lost. And whether that is a gap in knowledge or your reactions are bad or even just, I don't actually care enough to get better, right? Because, like, it's more important to me to paint, or it's more important to me to play basketball at the gym and get good at that. I'd rather practice, you know, crossover dribbles, behind the back dribbles, like all these no-look passes. Like, it's just not as important. And again, all of these things are valid reasons. And you just have to make sure your expectations are set properly for how good you can get at a fighting game. And don't beat yourself up about it like I do. I give myself some very good advice, but I very seldom follow it. So yeah, that's just the way it works. So, but yeah, you can get good at fighting games. You can do it. You can do it. You can do it. So I agree with Brian F. I really think anybody can get good at fighting games. If you're having trouble, go find some people who can help you. Like I said, if you ever find me on a random stream, ask me. I'm more than happy to help. More than happy to help. Any case, hope you guys enjoyed this episode here. Oh, James Chen Reacts. I'm doing React stuff right now. Keep in mind, everything is on Jay Chenzor. Soon the YouTube channel will also change to Jay Chenzor. If you haven't noticed, it's a split logo right now, indicating the transition is happening. But I hope that you guys enjoyed this. I hope you really enjoyed watching this. And the day this podcast graced your ears was the most important day of your life. But for me,
it was Tuesday.
okay.